Today on the Race to March Madness, we mosey on down to Memphis, where John Calipari's high-octane offense has the Tigers humming atop the polls.
I like to say it's Princeton on steroids.
We'll talk to Billy Donovan about his formula for a three-peat in Gatorville.
The biggest thing is they've really tried to work hard in putting themselves second and put the team first.
And we'll dissect all the headlines and hottest teams in college hoops with SMU coach Matt Doherty. The Race to March Madness, we're revving it up right now. I'm Bonnie Bernstein. Thanks so much for joining us. I am with our resident hoops connoisseur, Tom Brennan. I know he likes that title.
Thank you.
And our guest for the week, SMU coach Matt Doherty. And over the next month and a half, as we lead up to the NCAA tournament, we're going to be talking about who's hot, who's not. We'll take behind-the-scenes looks each week at a different top 25 program, starting today with a terrific feature on John Calipari's motion offense, who provided the inspiration and just what makes it tick. And speaking of Memphis, as we take a look at the top 25 polls, nothing really has changed from 1 to 4. You've got Memphis, Kansas, Duke, North Carolina. Matt, you have the good fortune of being in Conference USA along with Memphis. You play the Tigers on Wednesday. In your mind, are they the #1 team in the country?
Boy, that's tough to say, especially as we're getting ready to play them. I don't want to make them too mad. But I think that in a head-to-head matchup, the thing that I would favor Carolina is that Tyler Hansbrough inside is a big-time scorer. Joey Dorsey is a big-time rebounder, big-time defender, but he doesn't score like Tyler Hansbrough. Maybe he's not asked to, but I think I'd give the edge to Carolina if they met head-to-head.
I like the Jayhawks. They got so many good players, I can't name them all. That's how good they're 10, 12 deep. But the fact they're disciplined, they really run the floor well, they play great defense. They're just a team that I think their time is now.
Yeah, and you don't really want to discount Duke. Team has a chip on its shoulder after losing to VCU in the first round of the NCAA tournament last year. Kyle Singler's come in, been a great impact freshman. Gerald Henderson has stepped in seamlessly as a starter. And, of course, you've got DeMarcus Nelson. So they are deep, and it seems like they are back on track. Okay, the one team you are very surprised to see in the top 25 midway through the season.
Well, Drake. It's got to be Drake. To me, Drake was a program that's dead in the water until Dr. Tom Davis came in. Last year was the first year in 20 years they had a winning season. Now his son Keno has taken over, and they blew into the top 25, beating intrastate rivals? I want to make sure I do my Carolina education properly. Beating Iowa and Iowa State. I think that Keno's done an unbelievable job.
And for me, it's St. Mary's of California, Bonnie. I love the Gales. Patty Mills, a point guard, freshman, doing a great job for him. Randy Bennett only won 2 games the year before they only won 2 games the year before he got there. They're now having a great year. It'll be them and the Zags in the West Coast Conference. It'll really be interesting. I know they play pretty soon.
And in fact, those teams do face off on Monday. Biggest disappointment?
Well, to me, it's got to be NC State, and I don't mind as a Carolina guy bashing the Wolfpack a little bit.
You don't mind. You're basking in it.
But here's a team that's preseason top 25, finished last season really strong, have really good players in Ben McCauley and Brandon Costner coming back. J.J. Hickson, a big-time recruit, but I think they missed the point guard play of Edgen Atzer, his leadership, glue guy, going with a freshman a lot at the time, Javier Gonzalez. I just think the chemistry's not right.
And I think the idea that Clemson just cannot beat Duke or Carolina. I mean, there's a lot of people that can't beat Duke and Carolina. But this year, I think they were really built. Casey Rivers and Booker, they have a lot of good players. They have a lot of experience. But they just can't get those elephants out of the room. And until that happens, then what happens? They fall off and they lose games that they shouldn't. And the next thing you know, you're out of the tournament. So I think Clemson has been disappointing. But they can turn it around.
Well, many wondered whether Florida, in fact, would be a disappointment, losing 6 players from its championship team. But the Gators are 18-3. They're in the thick of things in the SEC. When we come back, what's life been like for Billy Donovan post 2 national titles? Plus, Memphis in motion. No, it's not a ride at Graceland. It's John Calipari's key to success. We'll step inside the whirling dervish that is the Tigers' offense when the Race to March Madness rolls on.
From one of our guards, they're gone.
Race to March Madness is brought to you by Capital One. What's in your wallet? By Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. And by Taco Bell. Think outside the bun.
welcome back to the race to March Madness. All right, if I asked you to come up with a nickname for Memphis's offense, what would you call it? Maybe, I don't know, the Memphis Mach 5 or Southern Street Ball? I'm going to go with Poetry in Motion. You know, like that line in the old Thomas Dolby song from the 80s? If you don't, just work with me. John Calipari is blinding us with science, courtesy of a little magic trick he picked up from an unlikely source.
This style or this system of play, run at him, run at him, run him, look at that rim. Yeah. In my opinion, the more I studied it, it unleashes players. Motion 3, throw it ahead, throw it ahead. Skip it. It unleashes them. Go wide. That's what I want to see. I like to say it's Princeton on steroids. When everybody watches us, what do they say about our team? They got like 6 guys out there. It was great offense, and you had to scramble to play. That's the game. Now go. Vance Wahlberg, a junior college coach from Fresno City, came here to Memphis to watch us. I said, why don't you tell me how you guys play? And he told me. And it intrigued me. Go, Joey, go, Joey! It's a dribble drive motion. Every player that catches the ball is trying to beat his man on the dribble. And everybody that beats his man on the dribble is trying to shoot a layup. We want this guy, or whoever it is, at the top or on a wing, to have alleys to drive. So if I need that alley right here to get bigger, he will cut to the U and then go behind me. And that's what he'll do. Now that gave me this alley right here to drive. Fly, sit. There you go, I like that. Why is that great for him? When he catches it and looks up, what? He thinks he's shooting it. So he never has to ball fake.
It's really based on spacing, and really the great thing about it is the players get to make all of the decisions.
We got to get to a point where when you're running that fast, it doesn't make your mind go like that.
In this offense, you got to beat your man every time, just so that the offense can go right and that everything can get clicking right.
The minute he turns away from one of our guards, they're gone. So you're going to fight like hell and make him catch it out here and figure out how am I going to play him when he catches it out there. We grew up 5 passes before a shot.
You got to be athletic.
I'm saying 4 drives before a shot.
Whoever has the ball is capable of driving or shooting.
8 screens before we shoot the ball.
You have to know how to dribble the ball.
We don't set screens.
If you can't play, this offense will show it.
Quick in, go!
People think that the offense that we run is just freelance.
It's not helter-skelter.
There's no way you can mess up.
It's patterns just like Princeton.
Do your job, or you're not going to fin this offense.
There'll be people that will argue that the reason it wouldn't matter how he would play with the guys he has. Maybe that's the case. Maybe it is the case. All I know is I do more coaching in practice and less coaching during the game. You got to stay with him, D-Rose. Quit looking around.
It's a really good offense, and John does a great job with it. He's got great parts, and they all relate well to each other, and they work hard, and they play together, and they share the ball.
Here's Rose.
They're really coming at you with their depth. They really come at you with their pressure. He's letting those guys play to their ability, which is a smart move.
Teams haven't seen this type of offense. It's just different. Anything different, you have to adjust to.
That's the team to beat. I think Carolina is as good as they are. I think Memphis is on a mission.
Every player is capable of driving and getting to the basket, so it's hard to defend.
This is an offense. If you think it's drive and kick or weave, I'm very happy. Because if that's the extent you think we're running it, then you can't guard it.
So here's the irony in all of this. Wahlberg has this conversation with Calipari a couple of years ago. Then he goes to Pepperdine, but he just resigns recently because, oh, by the way, the offense isn't working anymore. Which begs the question, Tom, what kind of caliber players do you need to have in order for this offense to be effective?
What jumps out at me, Bonnie, is the fact that you really have to have good individual one-on-one players. They have to get by their guy and make plays. Now, the second part is they have to be able to make good decisions once they're on the drive. The defense has to keep moving, and the offense has to make smart plays, and you have to be a good player to get into that position.
Now, you're in a fortunate position because in Conference USA, there were a lot of teams that play some variation of a motion offense. How do you guard it?
How do you guard it?
How do you guard it?
How do you guard it? I'm 0-2 against Memphis, so I don't know. We went zone a lot last year because we didn't have the athletes to guard them. Not many people do, and they really take advantage of the rules where the hand checking is really taken away from college basketball. They want to drive the gaps and try to get fouled. So I think one, you try to play zone. Two, you can't help one person away. You want to almost make it a 4-on-4 game, because if you help, they're going to have that guy come in the wake, they kick it to him, and now he's on the dribble drive, and it distorts your defense.
And they don't shoot fouls well. That is the one Achilles heel.
Yeah, well, the one thing that we do know is that for all intents and purposes, the Tigers are pretty ferocious on the court. Off the court, however, you put them in the presence of a king, and all of a sudden, the Tigers are at a loss for words. Here's Jen Sturger.
While Memphis may be known for its great barbecue and men's basketball team, it's also home to the world-famous Graceland. I'm here with Antonio Anderson and Jeff Robinson, and we're going to take a tour inside. Oh, by the way, did I mention it's Elvis's birthday?
Hi, welcome to Graceland. This portrait of Elvis was done right around the time he bought Graceland, so he was just 22.
No wonder his hair looks good. He's got mirrors everywhere.
And now we're going down a mirrored line staircase, so watch out.
Back in the 50s, this is big time.
Most pro athletes would be rolling like that back in the day, right?
No, they didn't have money like Elvis.
Elvis was a big Pittsburgh Steelers fan.
No basketball?
No basketball, not at that time.
He didn't know about the greatness that was the Memphis basketball team, right?
He would definitely be a Tigers fan now. I know he would be. We're going to go head up to the jungle room.
Awesome. He took karate?
He had 2 8th-degree black belts, one in Kempo and one in Taekwondo, and his nickname was Tiger.
And this little green shag going on.
And you'll even look at the Elvis carpeted the ceiling.
Oh my gosh. That's for tall people like you guys, so you don't, keep ahead.
Well, here we're on the racquetball court. There's over 500 gold and platinum records here on the court.
Wow. Not many artists in our generation, at least, have this many gold records, let's be real. 50 Cent has not caught him yet.
Oh, that's a lot of records.
If Coach Cal's such a big Elvis fan, you don't think he'd sport that at the game?
How about if we get Coach Cal a pair of Elvis shades?
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, we'll get a pair of Elvis shades.
So do you guys have like a newfound, respect for them?
Looking at all the stuff that he accomplished, yeah, you do have a newfound respect.
Well, that pretty much wraps up our tour here at Graceland. Guys, pleasure hanging out with you, but you guys got some practice to get to.
Coverage of college basketball on ABC continues this afternoon with two of the top programs in the nation. You'll see either number 2 Kansas facing Big 12 foe Colorado or number 3 Duke hosting Miami at Cameron Indoor. College basketball presented by KFC is part of Student Spirit Week presented by EAS on ABC at 3:30 Eastern. For more information, log on to ESPN.com. How about a little race to the Final Four trivia? Memphis is shooting for its first national title, but there are 7 schools that have already done it back-to-back. How many can you name? Yes, you're allowed to phone a friend, and we'll give you the answer right after the break. Imagine what it was like to be Billy Donovan on May 22nd, 2007. On one hand, you're so proud because 3 of your players just went top 10 in the NBA draft. 2 others went in the second round. But on the other hand, you're wondering, now what? Aaron Andrews talks to Donovan about the aftermath of 2 titles and starting over with a whole new crop of fresh faces.
What happened to you as a coach over the 2 years?
Once you win a national championship, everything changes and your life changes and people change, and I don't want that to happen.
Forever be known as the 2006 NCAA champion.
I like working and I like being with my family, and I don't want things to get in the way of those 2 things right now, and that's where my focus is, and that's where I've tried to keep it since the 2 national championships.
You walk around this place and you see Joe Kim and Al and Torian's face everywhere. I mean, do you have to limit how much you kind of talk about those guys and what happened the past 2 years with this group?
I really do. I don't really talk about those guys. I think that would be something that would be unfair to those guys, would be to create any level of comparison. The only thing that I do talk about with the team is not necessarily them as individual players, but what they were as a team. because I do think there's a tremendous learning experience in that. I don't know if there's any teams in the country that have won back-to-back championships that have had such a different parallel of where the expectation was from one year to the next. So I really have stayed away from that and have probably drawn more parallels in regards to what team is about. And you got a great model here the last couple of years.
What can you take from the past 2 years and maybe use it this year?
Well, I think there's no question the last couple of years, probably the biggest thing that I hope our basketball team takes is what makes up a team. They've worked very hard on their relationships off the court. They've worked very hard getting along. They've worked very hard trying to be unselfish, try to understand what's going on. And the biggest thing is they've really tried to work hard in putting themselves second and put the team first.
I read where you said having such a young team is like raising kids for you. What has it been like for you dealing with this group after the past 2 years you've had?
It's been a lot of fun. I just think because their attitude's been great. They're coachable. They're competitive. They want to get better. They want to learn. They want to grow. And I think that's all you're asking for. Each day that goes by, each experience they get, they start to get a little bit of a clearer picture of the direction we're trying to go.
What are your expectations of this group this year?
My expectations are no different than the expectations were the last, couple of years. In 2006, when we won the first national championship, we talked about being the best team we can be and where that would lead us. When everybody was talking about repeating and preseason #1 last year, we talked about being the best team we could become and letting the results fall where they may. I think the same goes with this team. I want this team to be the best it can be.
By the way, we mentioned Florida has 5 players in the NBA. Realistically, though, Tom, how is it that Billy Donovan has kept his Gators in the thick of things with all of the losses?
I think it's easy. The easy answer to that, Bonnie, he's just comfortable in his own skin. He's never measured himself or his team by how many national championships they win. And he's all about getting better every day, and I really believe that's the way he lives his life, and that's the way he coaches his team.
I want to ask you specifically about Nick Calathes, because a couple years ago you were down in Florida, actually recruiting Chandler Parsons, and the two went to high school together. Did you think Calathes would be as impactful of a freshman as he has been?
And honestly, no. I thought he'd be a good player at Florida and fit in very well in really taking over a Lee Humphrey role. But he's doing so much more as a freshman in terms of handling the ball, passing the ball, making big shots. He's a strong kid. He's a big kid, about 6'5", and he's really tough and has great composure. He's playing, on a national stage at the University of Florida. Very, very impressive.
Big picture, where do you think the SEC is this year?
Big picture, they're in the bottom 3. Either
the major powers.
Of the major powers, right. It's the ACC, the Big Ten, and the SEC. You can 4, 5, and 6 any way you want to, but I think the other guys are a lot better.
What about Big 12? You got Kansas, Texas, A&M.
I like Big 12. I think
K-State.
they're probably third behind the Pac-10 and the Big East. I think the Big 12 is very good with Texas, Kansas State. A&M has slipped. They won, they're starting to win a little bit more, but they certainly have the talent to make a run in the NCAA tournament.
And Baylor's a great story.
Yeah, and Florida, as far as they're concerned, big Eastern Division matchup on Tuesday. They're heading to Knoxville to face Tennessee. Well, the drama is back on Thursdays. Lost, the show that's on everyone's top 10 list, begins its best season yet. An all-new Lost, Thursday, 9, 8 Central on ABC. Coming up, we'll get an inside look at SMU's practice. We're miking up Matt Doherty, and then we'll go full court press and put the coaches on the clock on some tough topics when the race to March Madness continues.
Race to March Madness is brought to you by Capital One. What's in your wallet? By Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. And by Taco Bell. Think outside the bun.
Follow through. Snap that wrist down. Get it up and spin it. Get it up, John. Get it up. Never going in unless you get it up. Stop. You need to chill out. I told him to pick on you, okay? Because you're hopping like hell, and your head is, you didn't see Animal House with Belushi? Who saw it? Animal House with Belushi? You're going John Belushi on me in the lane, okay? Keep your head still and quit hopping. Good, good. That's better, good. That was as good as you've done.
Belushi?
Hey, it's a classic.
Your kids are 18, 19 years old. They've never even heard of John Belushi.
My kids listen to Zeppelin. They listen to Aerosmith. They listen to the Beatles. Why not a classic like Animal House?
Bonnie, this is how we're going to guard. We're going to guard Memphis. That's how we're going to guard Memphis.
It'll be like this. It'll be like this.
No, that's how do you guard him? How do you guard him? How do you guard him? All right, good. Memphis. That'll be a good natural segue. Get back to the top echelon teams. Each one of you give me a critical game for one of those top teams that will determine whether they're a one seed in the NCAA tournament.
I think for the ACC, you got Carolina Duke on the 6th. I think that'll really prove who's better. There's a lot of conversation. Duke may be better than Carolina. I'm still going with the Carolina Blue.
Gee, I wonder why.
Such a homeboy. I think the game that really jumps out at me in the West is UCLA has to go back to USC. The reason it's so important for the #1 seeding is because USC has already beaten them in Pauley. So that's going to be a big game for the Bruins.
And I'll have to pick Memphis at Tennessee, which is on ESPN. Shameless self-promotion. That one's on February 23rd. All right, last segment. Full court press. Ask you a couple of very pressing questions. You got 90 seconds to answer these 3. Question number 1, Tom, who is the one team that scares you the most?
Well, I think the one team that scares me the most are the Butler Bulldogs because they have senior leadership with Graves and Green, and they've been down this road before, and they could really make some noise in the tournament.
I say Xavier. Sean Mills done a terrific job. They've beaten teams like UVA, Cincinnati, beat UMass at UMass, Dayton, beat K-State, and almost beat Tennessee. He's got things rolling in Cincinnati.
Question number 2, which top 25 team is on the way out?
Well, I say Mississippi State, and the reason I say it is not because I don't think they're good, but they're real young. They only have 1 junior and 1 senior, and I think when you get in the thick of conference play, experience means a lot.
Well, if he's saying that, I'm saying Mississippi. We're trashing the state of Mississippi a little bit, but Mississippi State crushed Ole Miss the other day, and to see them sliding out, I think the reality of the SEC will kick in.
Question number 3, we have talked so much during the year about the strength of the freshman class. Today, if you had to pick a freshman of the year, who would it be?
I like Love from UCLA. He just does so much, and he's just so valuable to that team.
Michael Beasley, because without Michael Beasley, K-State's not relevant.
K-State goes as Beasley goes. All right, well, that's a wrap for this edition of Race to March Madness. Next Saturday, we will head to Bloomington for an inside look at Indiana and Super Frosh Eric Gordon and Xavier, one of the hottest teams this year in all of the A-10, but have the X-Men benefited from a little divine intervention. That and a whole lot more on the Race to March Madness at 3 o'clock Eastern on ABC. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next week.